Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for part 3 of our series on researching for Roadmap. I'm Travis Hejock with the Everett Library, and in this video we're going to talk about how we can use our knowledge of information literacy and the information that we got from popular sources to now start looking for scholarly sources about our topic. So I am on the library homepage, which is library.queens.edu. I would highly recommend bookmarking this page. And before I do anything else, I want to emphasize again that the librarians at the library are available to help you with your research. So if you have questions about how to use databases or search tools, about refining a research topic, about evaluating sources or setting up your citations, we can help you with that. So if you have questions, you can go to Get Help from the library homepage and then Ask Us. And then you can find our contact information here. So our general information as well as our individual contact information. And you can make an appointment with us or call us, email. You can also visit us at the library. I would recommend setting an appointment first just to make sure that we're actually available to meet with you. And we have specific liaison departments. So if you have a question about doing research for music therapy or psychology or something, I can help you with that. If you have a question about doing research for philosophy or communication, Katie can help you with that. And again, we are happy to work with you. So I'm going to go back to the library homepage. And I'm going to do research using OneSearch, which is the main search box on the library homepage. It searches almost everything that we have access to, so it's a really great resource for getting started. So I am going to use the same search concept that we talked about before. I'm going to look for food desert. I get 36,000 results. We can see that we have a lot of filter options here on the left. So I can specifically limit my research to scholarly and peer-reviewed. If I want to make sure that I get recent research, I can use this date filter option. I'm going to go with 5 years here. And so we went from 36,000 results to 1,600. So we've already really limited our results to make this a much more manageable amount. I'm going to do something else that will further refine our results. So something to note about library databases and academic databases is that they work differently from search engines like Google. Google is doing a lot of work behind the scenes to try to figure out what you're looking for. They're doing something called natural language processing, which is looking at the language that you use and contextualizing it and looking for synonyms to try to get exactly what you're looking for. Sometimes this works really well. Other times they can make predictions that are not actually helpful to you. Library databases and academic databases in general are much dumber. They're not doing nearly as much work behind the scenes to try to figure out what you're looking for. They are mostly just taking the keywords that you put in and finding results that have those same words, which can be frustrating, but can also be really empowering because it allows you to take a lot more control of your search and find much more specific and relevant results. So I'm going to do something right off the bat to further refine this. I've got a concept that's made up of 2 words. I'm going to put that in quotes. What that is going to do is force the database to search this as an exact phrase. So right now, some of these results might be about the food that you can find in a desert, which is not what I'm interested in. So I'm going to rerun this search, and I've still got my filters here. That's something to note. We went down from 1,600 to 333 results. So already this has gotten me a lot more specific results and helped me manage the amount that I have found here. So now I've got a much more refined search. I'm going to start scrolling through these titles to see what's relevant. So I see they're talking about the impact of food deserts on hospitalizations. We're comparing residents in different types of urban environments. we can see the relationship between food deserts and childcare. We can see a lot of specific stuff, and this is something to note with academic research. It tends to be very, very specific and niche. This can be difficult when you're first getting started with research, which is why I recommend starting with those popular sources, which tend to be broader and tend to be easier to read, because academic articles can be very dense. So that's why it's a good idea to start with those popular sources. So something that came up here is they're talking about racial differences in perceived food swamp and food desert exposure. So this idea of a food swamp, if I didn't know what that meant, I would recommend looking it up on Google or another search engine. I'm not going to do that in this video. A food swamp is basically where there's too much unhealthy food, like a lot of fast food restaurants and convenience stores in a small area, whereas a food desert just means there's no access to food. So that's actually an area that I'm interested in. So I want to explore both of these ideas at the same time, food deserts and food swamps. So I'm going to do something with my search here. I'm going to add or food swamp here. So what I've done is opened up my search. I've expanded it. So now I'm not just interested in results that have the term food desert. I'm also interested in results that have the term food swamp. This or here is what we call a search operator. So it's telling the database that I don't care which of these terms comes up as long as one of them comes up. So I have 333 results now. I'm going to rerun the search, and we got a handful more. So this has opened up my search pool to help me find more sources that might be relevant to what I'm looking for. So I've got a better search for me to explore this topic through. Something else that I might be interested in is solutions to this problem. So when I was doing my background research before with popular sources, one thing that came up that I didn't show in the video was possible solutions. One of them was this idea of zoning, so that we can change laws around who can build where in cities to try to affect the way neighborhoods develop. So they might say that, only a certain amount of fast food restaurants can be built in a given area. So if I want to add that concept to my search, I am going to put these ideas, food deserts and food swamps, into one conceptual bucket, because these ideas are related enough that I want to explore them in tandem. I don't care which idea that my sources talk about, as long as they talk about at least one of them. So I'm going to put those in parentheses, which tells the database, treat these things together. It works like using parentheses in the order of operations in math. So now I've got this one bucket here that's held together with parentheses, where these concepts are joined with the search operator or. And now I'm going to add in a term for my proposed solution. So I've got two conceptual buckets here. One bucket has two terms in it, food desert or food swamp, so I can find things that have either of those terms. And then the other bucket is zoning, this type of solution that I'm interested in exploring. And I've joined these two buckets together with this search operator and. So whereas or expanded my search, I went from 333 to 350, and is going to contract my search, because now I am giving the database more parameters that it has to satisfy in order to give me a certain result. So now I'm looking for stuff that has something from this bucket and something from this bucket. So it's got to meet these two conditions now in order to come up. So I've got 350 results now. I'm going to run search, and I went down to 10 results. So I really narrowed it down, and now I can actually sift through these results. 10 is few enough to where I can actually go through all of these. So as I go through, I'm scanning those search results to see what terms come up in the titles, to see what's relevant. I'm going to take a look at this one with the quick look option. And I can read the abstract here. An abstract is just another word for summary. So this gives you an overview of what this article is about. I can see that this is a journal article because it's labeled. And down here, I can see the subjects that it's categorized under. These can give me additional search terms that I might want to explore as well. It tells me where it was published, as well as when it was published. So there's a lot of good information about your source here. Before you start reading articles, you always want to read the abstract first to make sure that it's relevant to what you're looking for. If I decide that this source is relevant to my search, I don't necessarily want to start reading it immediately. I want to get a broader picture of what research is out there before I start diving into anything specifically. So I'm going to save this and come back to it later. So I can save stuff in OneSearch with this little bookmark icon. I would recommend starting a research journal, which is just a Google Doc, a Word doc, whatever, to save articles that you find, to keep track of the search terms that you use, and also to take notes about the articles that you find. So if I want to save an article that I found online and come back to it later, I want to use something called a permanent link, also known as a permalink. And that's this little chain link icon here. It comes up in all the databases that we have access to. It looks pretty similar. And so I can copy that URL and put it in that Word doc or whatever to come back to it later. If I tried to use this URL here, it wouldn't work because it's tied to the session that you're in at that time. So you always want to use the permanent link or the permalink to make sure that you can access this document later. So I would add that to my research journal, and I would take some notes about what they're talking about, what their main ideas are, as I keep track of my research, which will save you some time down the line when you start going back and looking at these results a few days later and you can't remember what they were about exactly. It's very easy to wind up with a page full of links that has no context, but if you keep that journal and you take notes about your sources, it'll make it much easier for you down the line. So now that we've saved some articles, we can actually start digging into them. So I can get to these articles by clicking that Full Text Online link. The Full Text Online will take me to the database that it's coming from, or maybe straight to a journal. This might look slightly different depending on the exact database that you're in, but in general, it will show you the title, the information about the article, and then show you either the full text on the page or as a PDF. So I'm going to open this PDF here, and it takes me to the article. So something to note about academic articles is that they can be very dense and technical. So you only need to spend most of your time on a few sections of these articles. We've read the abstract to make sure that it's going to be relevant. Now we can go down to the introduction. The introduction is going to give us background information about what research has come before, what these researchers are building on, and they're going to give you a lot of citations to show you that they have done their homework. So we know that they already have an understanding of this topic, and they will talk about how their research builds on this. Once you read the introduction, they will talk about their methods. It might be called a methods section or methodology. For now, you can skip this section because it's going to be very dense and technical. And we don't necessarily need to have all of that information at this stage. So we want to skip the methods section and go to the discussion section. This is where they're going to break down the results that they got. They're going to analyze them, describe the significance of them, and make sense of it, basically. So we'll read the discussion, and then from there, we will go to the conclusion. And they will further situate it within the existing research and then talk about the limitations of the study, as well as areas for further research. So again, when you read a scholarly article, read the abstract, make sure it's relevant, then read the introduction to get that background information and situate this research within the existing body of knowledge, then read the discussion and then the conclusion. Before you cite an article, it's always best to at least skim the methods section and the results section where they actually describe the evidence that they collect. But don't worry if you don't fully understand all the terminology that they use, because again, it can be very, very technical. So with all of the searching that we've done up to this point, we've been evaluating it along the way. And the main thing that we use to evaluate our sources is evidence. Evidence is the best indicator that a source is credible. With those popular sources, you want to make sure that they are citing other research that's come before to make sure that that information is not just being made up on the spot or coming from a place of intense bias. And with our scholarly sources, they're already being reviewed to make sure that they're evidence-based before they ever get published. So as you're evaluating sources, you're more thinking about the purpose that you're going to use them for, and looking to make sure that they're relevant to what you need, as well as that they're current enough for the type of research that you're doing. But again, the main factor in determining that a source is credible is whether it is evidence-based. So now I want to wrap up the concepts from these videos. The first thing that we talked about was information literacy, and we used our understanding of the information ecosystem about how information is produced, shared, and used to approach our research. And we decided that research is inquiry. So you're not just finding information, but you're exploring questions and problems, you're keeping an open mind, and you are exploring things open-endedly. We also found that searching is strategic exploration, which means you'll need to do a little bit of planning before you actually start doing your research. You'll think about the type of information you need and how much of it you need, and you'll expect to try different strategies, tools, and platforms and keywords, knowing that this process is going to be iterative. Your first search is not going to give you all the information that you need, so you should expect to take some time with it and try different things in different places. We also talked about evaluating our sources, which means that we need to think about how we'll use them, so what types of sources we're going to need, and we always, always, always want to look for evidence-based sources because that's the best indicator that a source is credible. And finally, ask for help. Please make use of the resources that you have available to you here at Queen's. The librarians are happy to work with you and show you different databases and tools and tricks to make sure that you're getting the most relevant results. We can help you refine your topic and evaluate your sources, as well as create those citations. And we are happy to work with you. So thank you so much for your time. Again, I'm Travis Hijak with the Everett Library, and please feel free to contact me if you have any other questions. Thank you. Bye.